Good morning, everybody. I'm Megan Twentyman, the UC Brand Manager here at Soft Solutions. Thanks for joining us today. The purpose of today's webinar is to have a look at the most recent changes around the free licensing offering and to have a look at Update 7, which is at Release Candidate 2, which means we're about to go live with that version. So quick look at the agenda for today. Okay, so we're going to go through the new rules that apply around the free offerings. We'll look at the key functionality in Update 7. There are some quite major changes around provisioning in particular, and I'll jump into our test system, which is running Update 7 Release Candidate 2. So we'll run through those changes, and then we'll have a look at the resources and keeping up to date, and then we'll open it up for a Q&A. I will try to stick to the bite-sized webinar format that we're familiar with. However, there is a lot to unpack with what is changing and happening, and I don't want anybody to miss out on information, which is obviously quite critical. If you've got any questions, feel free to pop those in the questions box as we go along. You should have a nice little question mark there that you can add questions to, and I will come to those at the end of the session. All right, so free offerings. So we're all familiar with having a dedicated free trial license, which has been around for a very long time now. Moving forward, the free offering is going to be the new startup product from 3CX, which is for up to 10 users. That is a license and hosting all in one bundle. So it's on the Hosted by 3CX platform, but it's all just part of that bundle. It's the per user license model, so up to 10 users. There are some restrictions, so SIP is restricted to specific providers, and you can only have one provider for startup free. So that's quite important. A lot of people often have a backup SIP provider. You can't do that with startup free. The free license does have some restrictions, but it can now connect IP phones, but no BLFs. So there are still restrictions, and it is restricted to only one ring group. So that is going to be the free offering going forward. So now let's have a look at what's happening to the free offering as we have known it before now. Okay, so all free subscriptions, or the standard for simultaneous call, as we like to refer to it, issued before the 1st of January, so up to the 31st of December 2022, will remain free at least until the 31st of December 2024. Now that is an extension of date. They were all expiring on the 30th of June. However, they must be registered in the customer's name and email address, and there are very strict rules that will be enforced by 3CX. So it is one for simultaneous call free license per customer account. It must be registered with a unique email address. They can't have multiple licenses with the same email address. And the for simultaneous call free and the customer account, so that's when you log into the portal as the customer, must have the same email address as well. Before the 30th of June, and whilst that sounds like a long way away, it's only 3 months away, accounts with more than one key, so if you've got customers with more than one instance of free, they must transfer ownership of one of the excess keys to another user who do not already have a free key. They must use a unique email address, and they must have an account as per the new rules. If this is not done by the 30th of June 2023, the license will be deactivated. Now, what is driving this change for 3CX is that they are very aware that there are some partners, and I am in no way saying that this is our partners here in New Zealand, but there are partners globally who are charging customers for the free license, not for their services that go with it, but they're actually charging them a license fee. So 3CX has been driven to make this change to also protect the end customers as well, so that everything is very transparent. They'll also be checking for things like fake email addresses. So for example, if you set up customer 123 at yourpartnername.affiliate.com, things like those will be picked up in the 3CX system, and those licenses will be deactivated. So we don't want that to happen. We don't want an inconvenience for customers. So on the 30th of June, as long as all those rules have been followed, those licenses will then be extended to the 31st of December 2023, so this year. In November 2023, if all the rules are still being followed, the license will then be further extended to the 31st of December 2024. Dedicated free created from the 1st of January 2023, so in 2023, are 60-day trials only, and they will deactivate at the conclusion of that time frame. So what this means is you can still create trials for getting customers onboarded and testing 3CX. We highly encourage you to use the POC or proof of concept process to convert that license to a pro or enterprise and win the sale within 60 days. For the first 60 days, when you create a trial from your partner portal, you get free hosted by 3CX for 60 days as well. And there's a process. Please reach out to me if you don't have that proof of concept process, and I will send you the document. Basically, you have to have deployed the standard or free 4 simultaneous call, and then you will send the information and the opportunity through to Sebastian at 3CX, and he has the ability to turn that into a live trial of pro or enterprise up to a 32 simultaneous call license size, so you can actually put it really through the testing environment. Obviously, the expectation is you will win that sale and you will convert that sale to a paid license. Now, remember that those trial licenses, the license key can be upgraded by our team, our admin team, to a full license, and it will start from the day that you have that processed by our team and then run for the full year, and it will convert from a trial to a fully paid license. However, one of the key things that I am really talking to partners around, and many of you have probably had this conversation, is that the messaging is very clear from 3CX. The standard edition is no longer sold as a new license. People with standard editions can still renew their licenses for now, but we believe that will eventually be completely removed. So it's been phased out. In our opinion, a business critical communications tool should be a paid license. That gives your customer some protection as well. The free offering moving forward will be the startup free option. And those two systems are separate, so dedicated and startup are two separate systems. Okay, the other thing is that for 3CX partners, there are limits of how many free dedicated licenses you can have associated with your partnership level. So if you're a bronze partner, you can only have 5 of those. As you move up, you can see here the numbers: silver is 25, gold is 50, and platinum is 100. So they are putting limitations around that still. There are no limitations for the startup free product at this point in time. For customers that are partway through a year of free licensing, so for example, you started a free trial license back in August last year, so their license won't expire until August this year. Those licenses will still continue. You do need to follow the rules, so you need to make sure that they are licensed in their name and the email address is unique and the same as the portal, etc. Assuming that's all correct, when that license comes to expire, it will then extend to the 31st of December 2023 and then be reviewed again in November as well. So those things haven't changed and they will continue to be honoured. If you're unsure about anything or you want to talk about anything that has occurred where you've set up licenses last year, please feel free to reach out to me and we can go through license key by license key and have a look at that. It is, in our opinion, really important that you start upgrading those customers from free licenses to pro. We've had a bit of a stay of execution, as I like to call it, because up until recently we thought that was the 30th of June, and it has been extended. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at update 7. We are at release candidate 2, and we expect this release candidate 2 to go live within days. It's very, very close. So the development just keeps rolling on with 3CX. So one of the key things as we transition from the management console across to the admin panel in the web client is that you were still having to go backwards and forwards between both, and we still do, but over time that will be slowly eliminated. Now, one of the key things that I mentioned in last month's webinar, and I'll just reiterate again here now, is whether you access the management console or the admin panel of the web client, it is just a Google Chrome, for example, web page. I kind of refer to it in, this may be a bit sensitive, but it's like somebody going through a divorce. The management console is in the middle of separating, and everything is migrating across to the admin panel. But that takes time, it takes development, and it will be an ongoing process. So one of the things that was not able to be done in the web client admin interface was different ways of provisioning. So manual phone provisioning wasn't available. It now is. DECT configuration was not available. It now is. Remember that if you're in the cloud, you've got to have your base configured behind a SBC or a router phone. And we'll have a quick look at this in a second as well. The other thing that has come in is mass provisioning. So if any of you have attended any of Nicholas Perez's Update 6 webinars, you would have seen him configure a router phone and he had to put in a PIN number, which was not ideal for mass provisioning. That has now been removed. You now just enter the MAC address against the configuration for the phone and the user, plug it in within 14 days, and it will automatically and securely provision that phone. Note that in release candidate 1, a fix was implemented to ensure that the same MAC address could not be entered twice. So some people have managed to do that in the beta, where they had configured the same phone against 2 different users, which obviously just led to a complete pickle. So that has been resolved, and if you try to do the MAC address a second time, you will get an alert saying it's already in use and it can't be added for a second time. So I'm now just going to jump across to our, let me concentrate as I go to the right place. Here we go. Okay, we're just switching across to our live 3CX. So this is our, oops, what have I done? Sorry, I've just paused it. Let me just do that again. I clicked the wrong button. Bear with me a second and we'll just go back again. Sorry about that. It was me clicking the wrong button. Sorry, team. There we go. Okay, sorry, I had it across there wrong. My apologies. Okay, I just need to move some screens around here as well. So what we're in here is release candidate 2. You can see we've only got 2 users configured, and I'm going to zip down here to the admin panel. Okay, so we saw in update 6, we got these 7 new options available to us. And if we pop into users, you can see that we've actually got a couple of phones, DECT phones configured against Anisha and myself. And we'll have a look at the DECT in a moment. But for this example, I'm just going to pop into my test extension. And if I come along to IP phone, you'll see that I've actually got a generic IP phone selected. Okay, so what I've done here is I have added a phone into the system that is not an interop provider phone, IP phone, sorry, getting tongue-tied there. So it comes up as generic and we have to do some manual configuration. If I go back to Anisha, maybe I was, oh no, I was there. She's got one there as well. So I'm actually just going to delete that. And we're going to configure a phone. So it instantly asks you whether you want to configure a phone that is outside of the office or in the office. So, you know, really important when you're configuring a router phone. So we'll just have a look at both options and I'll zip backwards and forwards. So we'll say we're outside the office. which means we have to be behind a SBC or router phone. So it's actually not giving me the option to choose a normal phone. I have to choose a router phone. I click next, then presents me with all the phones that are available. So I can pop down and choose a Yealink T54W. Okay, don't actually have one here with me, so I can't enter the MAC address, but once I'd entered that MAC address, I would add the phone. But if we zip back and say that we are in the office, okay, it then gives me a much broader range of phones that I can choose from. Now, you can type in here so that you can speed up that process. So, for example, if I wanted to grab my T46U, for example, I can just start typing there as well, which makes it a little bit quicker, and you put the MAC address. If I was doing a manual provision of a phone not listed, this is where I would choose the configure your phone manually, and you'll see that whatever phone was previously selected is there. It's not actually configuring that phone. It's going to allow you to add a phone manually. Gives you all of the information. It tells you what you need to do, and when I click close, it's actually going to be there. Clearly, I haven't actually provisioned that, so I'll just delete that one. The other place that we need to look at here is in the voice and chat. This is where you can add DECT. So if we click on add DECT, again, it's going to ask us whether we're outside the office or in the office. And then it's going to present us with a list of the supported bases. And you just follow that process through. I'm going to cancel that one. And I'm going to have a look at this one that we've already provisioned, which is we've provisioned the W70B. This is actually live. I just don't have the handset here with me. I'm working from home today. But then on the users tab is where you can add the number of phones, and it knows how many phones can be added per base station. So those are all our new options for provisioning within Update 7. So basically with a user, if you go along and add the phone and the MAC address, once you actually then plug it in, is when it will actually finish that provisioning process. So we're going to zip back to screen 2. So just on the SBC capable phones, we've already talked previously in previous webinars around the Yealink and Fanville models. In Update 7, they have added 2 SNOM models of phone, which is particularly important for customers based in Europe. So those have been added, but anybody here in New Zealand that are using SNOM phones, you now have 2 router phone options or SBC onboard phone options. Remember, you can proxy up to 10 phones off the router phone, and it is very easy configuration. For larger installs, we would still suggest that you use a stock standard SBC. So another thing in Update 7 doesn't really affect us too much here in New Zealand, but globally they have added further providers for their SIP support to be configured via the web client admin console. The other thing they've added is public generic SMS API, which allows third parties to develop and support SMS on 3CX. Watch this space. I have actually just had a text this morning from one of our platinum partners to say that they have configured this and are working their way through it. So I'll be having a chat with them shortly to see how far down the process they are with that. For any of our partners that use SIP from Ufone, I mentioned last month that their new SIP was going through interrupt process. So their existing SIP is already interrupt, has been for years, the first to do it. We expect to see them back in Update 8. And as I said, Update 7 will be live very shortly. So it won't be far away, and we'll have that new SIP interrupt there from Ufone as well. Another key thing that has changed with Update 7 is that they are simplifying and streamlining the deployment method via this specific install website. There will be 3 options to choose from, which is as you can see on the small screenshot, and I'll zip across, I've got this open on my PC as well. So there's 3 options to choose from. There'll be startup, there'll be dedicated on hosted by 3CX, or dedicated self-hosted or on-prem. So I'm just going to whip across to this and show you that nothing much has changed in terms of how you're used to configuring and deploying 3CX, apart from the fact that you're now on this website. Now, you must be logged into your partner portal, so you can see up in the top right that I'm actually logged in as a partner, affiliate partner, because I don't sell anything through that account. But it allows us to choose which of these options we want to follow. So let's go with a 3CX, and we're going to go, actually we'll go private cloud or dedicated. We go next, and it does its little whirl around. It asks us to choose the name, so we just scroll down until we find APAC, Oceania, get New Zealand, and we'll call this test webinar. And we go next. Then it asks us for our extension, so we'll go with 4-digit. We go next, and then it's actually preparing our 3CX configuration, which I don't really need it to do, but you can choose your platform, and then you continue through the process, which I'm not going to continue for the purposes of this webinar, but it is really, really simple. So we'll just switch back. So with self-hosted, the new option that is coming here as well is being able to deploy from marketplaces. So images are available on Google Cloud, Amazon Cloud, Azure, and DigitalOcean. You simply launch the marketplace image and supply the config file that you create on the install website. Now, please note that Amazon Lightsail does not support marketplace images, and I know especially in Australia and New Zealand, a lot of customers are using Amazon Lightsail. DigitalOcean would be your equivalent or alternative at the same sort of pricing. On the 3CX Update 7 beta blog, there's even a link to claim a $250 credit from DigitalOcean, so you may want to check that out. We are aware that Volta and OVH will be added very, very soon. And in terms of on-prem, because we do still have customers deploying on-prem, it's similar to before, but instead of running the PBX config wizard, after installing on either Windows or Linux, mostly Linux these days, you'll supply the installer with the config file created on the website. So you need to be, as I say, logged in. It'll all be linked to your partner ID, and we'll guide you through it. So that is coming from Update 7 forwards. It's not there yet for Update 6 for our live systems, but it is coming. Some other tweaks and enhancements that have occurred through this alpha beta release candidate of Update 7 is that system owners, system admin, and group owner roles can now do a couple of receptionist operations, which is things like setting status, setting reminders, and setting and clearing extensions, because that's been a bit of pushback around that. The other thing that has been updated is the welcome email template. It's got a little bit more info about how to get started with 3CX for team members. It's got information on the desktop app. It's got links to the setup guide, all that type of thing in there. One thing that we've actually popped into the forum around the new welcome email template, and I actually have one open, so I'll just flick through to that. Here we go. So this is the new welcome template. So it starts off looking the same, but you'll note that you can click through to the user manual very quickly. What we have noticed is that when it's talking about the web client, it doesn't say inside your office or outside your office anymore. So that could be a little bit confusing for customers. So we have popped that into the forum, but everything else is still here. It tells you how to get your desktop app, etc., how to install on your Android or iOS device. talks about hosting meetings, etc. And this is a test system, so this data is not particularly relevant, hence why I'm happy to share that with you on this webinar. It's not from my live system. Okay. The other thing that they have changed, and this was in, I can't remember if it was release candidate 1 or 2, is that the system owner cannot change their own role, because they could previously, and they could end up locking themselves out of the instance and not being able to regain access to the 3CX instance. So they've stopped that from happening. So the system owner can't change themselves to a lower level. Just to recap what we mentioned last month about Microsoft Teams and Facebook Messenger, they're here to stay. As I mentioned last month, Microsoft Teams needs to undergo a redevelopment, will be for enterprise only. A minimum license level or restriction will be introduced. They've indicated 16 or 24, but that's still an unknown. Very much not designed to pick and choose between using 3CX today and Microsoft Teams tomorrow. You use one or the other. And they're targeting that at larger organizations that are already using Microsoft Teams for calling, etc. But they'll get all that power of 3CX in the back end. Facebook Messenger, Business Messenger, will also be redeveloped, very similar to the WhatsApp Business Messenger, and that's due to changes that Meta have made. Technical trainings, yep, the wait goes on. We're still waiting for those new certifications, which are imminent. Each week I'm told they're a week away. I know Nicholas Perez is actually in Tampa in the US delivering technical training, and I believe it is the new materials. I think he thinks I am chasing him constantly, because I'm always asking Sebastian and Nicholas, when, how soon is it going to be? As soon as we have that, we will be rolling out trainings once we've certified ourselves. Stay tuned to all our communications. The UC channel newsletter went out yesterday. And our weekly newsletter will have come out this morning. And obviously we're updating the LinkedIn group as well, which you can join from that newsletter. But if you're ever in doubt, just reach out to us. We're here to help. So that is today's webinar. I'm just going to pop out the questions box and see what information people need to know. So feel free to throw in further questions as we go. And I'm just going to scroll because I've got a few questions here. Okay, so for the partner level limited to X number of free licenses, that is already starting to kick in. However, I believe we've got a bit of a grace period while this is all happening, but you do need to start making those changes. So the key date there is the 30th of June. That is when licenses will be deactivated if they are not registered correctly. So if you are, for example, a bronze partner, which is limited to 5, and you've got more than that, reach out, we'll have a conversation. We would encourage you to get customers onto paid licenses. So the easy upgrade is to go to Pro. If they really want to stick with the free offering, you can create a new startup free for them. But that is complete reconfiguration. There is no crossover between the two. So that's that one. Yes, so somebody has had a free trial from last year that got the free upgrade to Pro, and 3CX reverted those down. Now that is mentioned in their blog post, and we've shared that blog post out. You can go to them and ask them to revert it. The reason they've put that to the free offering is because that will go through till the end of 2024 as long as all the rules are followed. But yes, it is frustrating, and I have heard that from a couple of partners. Hopefully we will get through this period relatively quickly and relatively unscathed. But if you're having issues, reach out to Sebastian with the license key information and he'll be able to assist you with that. Or if you're not sure, obviously come to me and I'll be happy to point you in the right direction. Still use the original Windows app as customers love being able to drag and drop. Yes, I know. I've got staff internally that will not let me get them onto the desktop app, where whilst you can't drag and drop, you can click and send it quite quickly with the new receptionist mode that came out in, I think, update 3 or 4. But yes, we have people still using that Windows app. So it's not officially supported, but it works perfectly well, but it will not be updated. But yes, I've got my own team members still using it. So people love that drag and drop ability. With remote phones behind a standard SBC, not router phone, how do you configure the phone in update 7? You would just terminology it is inside the office, even though it is behind an SBC. So I know that's a little bit confusing with their language, but I had that exact same question. If you're using a traditional SBC, you don't want to configure a router phone. So you say it's inside the office, because as far as networking is concerned, it is inside the office because it's behind the SBC. So that's the way around that for configuration. The one thing that I have not got any firm indication on, and I ask every opportunity I get, is when you create a new user as a system admin within the web client admin panel, there is no ability at this time to specify a specific extension number, because I know a lot of people will go, well, all our sales teams start with 4, all of our marketing teams start with 7. You know, they will split and categorize their team members. At the moment, that still has to be done from the management console, and you can click across to the management console from within the web admin. And I know that's frustrating, but I'm very hopeful that that will be addressed, because that's a key concern that has been raised on multiple occasions by myself, and I know by many others as well. So we believe that will be addressed, but no time frame on that. Is Raspberry Pi going to be discontinued as SBC? So I believe it will be. There has been no official announcement from 3CX on that question yet. However, when they took the Raspberry Pi option away for on-prem deployments, which only went up to update 2 for version 18, the wording in the blog post was that the SBCs are here for now, was the wording that was used. So to me, that is a clear indication that there will be changes to that, because it's just another build that 3CX has to maintain and develop and that type of thing. So they have worked closely with 3 different manufacturers to create the router phones. The key risk factor with a router phone scenario is that somebody unplugs the router phone and takes all your phones offline. We have some customers that, for consistency, are going, actually, we're just going to deploy T54Ws to everybody from Yealink, or a Fanville X4U for everybody, V2 for Fanville. So, you know, there are different ways that are being looked at around that. For larger configurations, a standalone SBC is still the better way to go, but when it's a larger configuration, a more powerful NUC is usually more effective than a Raspberry Pi as well. But there's been no indication of if and when that will go away. I'm just reading based on the language that was on the 3CX webinar, so it's a watch this space one. I know the biggest challenge globally at the moment is actually getting your hands on any Raspberry Pis, which is very difficult. So we do have the Corfatal NX32 units, which can be deployed as an on-prem option or run as an SBC, but that's more expensive than a Raspberry Pi. However, you save time on configuration, so it becomes a catch-22. If the site has a server, we've also used Hyper-V SBCs. I have heard of customers doing that previously. I haven't done any testing on that myself in terms of these changes, but these changes are already in there with update 6, and I haven't seen anything in the forum, but I will make a note and do a bit of research and see if we can find any information on that. All right, lots of questions this morning, or this afternoon now. Okay, I don't think there's any more questions. If there are more questions, you can always reach us on uc@softsoul.co.nz or call me or email me directly. More than happy to help. And if you've got any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much for all of your attendance today. It is really appreciated by myself and the entire UC team. And we look forward to seeing you next month. You will receive a recording tomorrow. And if any other questions come up, please feel free to reach out. Thanks everybody and have a great day.